Hello and welcome to another episode of E&F TV's Bridging the Gap. And today I'm joined by my friend Victoria Wright of Cairn Group. Good afternoon, Victoria, and how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Very excited to do this.
And big congrats because you've just started your new role at Cairn as of like 5 days ago, haven't you? Just at the end of the
Yeah,
first week now, you were telling me.
yeah, really, yeah. Really great group. Excited to be there. Lots of things to learn, new things. Every day's a school day, as they say.
Is your brain a little frazzled?
Understand clear. Yeah, loads of new systems. I mean, every hotel that I've got. So I've got 5 properties. So yeah, it's literally every single hotel has got different systems to learn and log in and get it working. And yeah, so IT's been my friend this week. But yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
There are so many things to learn in a new role, aren't there? There's the technical stuff like the systems and everything, some of which you may have used before, but there's also getting to learn obviously about the hotels, but the GMs and the staff and the
Yeah.
company culture as a whole and what's how people go about things it's really a mind mash, isn't it? So much to take on.
Yeah, it is. It's really important that you find that culture that suits you as well. And the fact of you need a team that you're going to be supportive to as well as they're going to support you. So you need to feel at home. And yeah, I think you get that gist within your first 2 or 3 days of whether you're going to fit in there, whether you're going to speak the same language as such. And yeah, Ken's been amazing. The team are really supportive. There's a bigger team. Central support is great. IT's been on it, which has been totally amazing. And yeah, every company's different with IT. Some people take it seriously, some people don't. So, but this team really do. Their marketing. I mean, I've had time with the marketing director. I've got time booked in next week with the group revenue director, which is really great. But yeah, the culture is super important for both parties, I think.
Off camera, you were kind of waxing lyrical about Cairn Group and how they've really eased you in a little bit this week compared to companies maybe in your past and experiences that you've had in the past. That's super important, right?
Yeah, very important. But however, I think it's all about your personality. So some people like formality and they like structure and they like to have everything ready for them. And that's just the way they work. And that's totally fine. But myself, I'm a people person. So for me, it's culture, it's about team, it's about how I click with people. The tools that you have are vital in our role. In revenue management, you can't do the job without tools. However, it's also about how the hotel is. Do you get a good feel for the hotel? When you look at the hotel, do you feel like you can sell that property, that that you can learn not just the hotel, but its neighborhood? It's really important that you know the surrounding areas, that you put things in place. But yeah, the team is really important in revenue management because if you can't communicate it at any level as such, or you struggle to get hold of people or get answers, it can be really frustrating later in the line. So my first week, everybody's been super responsive, super supportive, and really positive, which is amazing. And as I said, there is certain other elements of revenue management where it is rather more cold, is probably the word. So
Yeah.
that would suit a different personality to me. I am a
Mm.
team, because I've come through operations. It's where I sit. I'm a people person. I'm a team player. Whereas some people would prefer a corporate office where it's very, very analytical, data driven. You work off your own. It's quite lonely at times.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's about finding the right fit for your personality. And it's both ways. I mean, the company as well as and it's important to
Mhm.
ask, really important to ask for feedback after your first day, after your first 3 days, after your first week. Say to your line manager, how do you think I'm doing? Do you think I'm doing everything okay? Is there anything I can do to improve or speed up? And it's about that communication. Some properties or management companies that I've worked for don't give feedback, and that's really difficult to work with. But to some people, they might not want it. They might not thrive on being told if they're doing good or if the reverse side they're doing things incorrectly. So they'd rather, you know, just carry on. But I'm the opposite. I like to know where I sit, so to speak. Yeah.
There's a fear of the truth in some people. They prefer to kind of labour on under the, you know, kind
Yeah.
of like apprehension that they're doing okay when actually, you know, maybe they're not, maybe they could improve, or maybe, you know, the feedback is brilliant
Yeah.
and they can
Yeah.
thrive on that.
You know, it has to be constructive. You can't thrive in a negative environment. And I think hospitality has come a long way in the last 30 odd years. And now, you know, constructive feedback is a big thing. HR is really on it now. Most companies I work for have got a really good HR department. And, you know, I think we're really building on that people culture, which is really refreshing, because our industry did suffer in the 90s and early 2000s of being slightly behind the times. And now, you know, the team building and functions and social aspect of it is also really important. Because when I started in the industry in the early 90s, I'm giving my age away now, it became part of your family, because you work so many hours together, and you know, it was your social life as well as your work life, and you fun at work, and that's what it's about. And I find that that's slowly coming back, which is really, really, really good and really, really positive. So yeah, it is about culture. It's about fit on both sides, as I said.
I think we could do a whole show on how to start a new job, and it'd be really interesting. And you'd be in the line to do that, because, you know, like your views on it are so interesting. As it happens, I've been looking for someone to come on the show and discuss a certain topic, which is the on-site revenue manager role, for a while. And I've had you in mind for a while, but the great irony here is that you've just started a role which is not an on-site revenue manager, which is a cluster remote role. So perhaps not the greatest timing. However, I've always seen you as someone, in terms of personality, skills, experience, that thrives on, or has thrived in the past on kind of like being on site. So tell us a little bit, just start by telling us a bit about your history, your career so far, and how it's kind of developed over time.
So I started in the industry 33 years ago in September.
You hate saying that, don't you?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
like telling you I've got a 25-year-old. It's like, oh, where did that come from? No, technically, I started 33 years ago with Ramada Jarvis. And I basically started as a silver service waitress in a restaurant. And it was a very busy restaurant. It was one of the best in the area. I worked in Solihull in the West Midlands. I'm originally from Warwick. So moved from there when I went to university, and I went to Birmingham College of Food, Tourism, Creative Studies, did hotel catering and institutional management, and started work at Copthorne, Birmingham, across the road. So started there in F&B, met my husband at the time, and we relocated because he got promoted. So we relocated down to Sussex, to Copthorne Gatwick, which was the flagship Copthorne Hotel. I was basically with Millennium and Copthorne for 14 years. Had my first child, late 90s, and moved into sales because I was pregnant. So I came out of operations, just too much for me. So yeah, moved into sales, front office, did the rounds, loved reservations, absolutely loved it. So went on maternity leave, came straight back after a few months, and built the reservations team there, took on Effingham Park at the same time as Janner Road, so we made it into a centralised office, and then bought Slough under my umbrella, and then did pre-opening for Reading, the Millennium Majeski Stadium, Reading. So it was a really interesting role. Spent 14 years there, then decided to move home again to the Midlands. So just it was purely, that's why I left Millennium. There's nothing in the Midlands that I could go back to. I would have stayed there. It was a great company, great pension. You know, they looked after us, the uniforms, everything was brand standards. You know, so it was branded, so you knew where you were, and that's why I like brands in a way. However, as my career developed, I fell in love with independence, because then had some time off with the kids, came back, moved to Hampshire by this point. I've moved all over the UK, but moved to Hampshire. Started with Westmont Hospitality Management Company, and went to the Grand Harbour. Started there part-time as a res agent. Within 6 months, I was manager. Within another few months, I was rooms division manager. So that was a big beast of a building, right on the seafront, ports. So I'd done airports with Copthorne. I'd done city centre with Birmingham. I'd then now doing ports. So it was another string to my bow. Completely different, but the same as any other hotel, as in the market segmentation, etc., was different. So rooms division, if I assume you know, is bedrooms, it's reservations, revenue, housekeeping, and front office. Encapsulated every part of my experience to that point. Due to manage shifts, all the rest of it that you do. So so I was there for 5 years, and the company basically were selling the property, and I just decided it was time to move. So I was approached for another role, and it was at St James's Hotels as it was then, and moved to Winchester and took on an independent, lovely old city centre property, got the RGI, RevPAR, everything up, was promoted to cluster. So I took on a Holiday Inn as a brand. So I had an independent and a brand. And then it just evolved from there. Further IHG properties, went down pre-opening for Exeter, spent time in Bath and other hotels. We were a very close revenue team, very close to the revenue director for Castlebridge, as it then turned into. So yeah, we had a great time. And unfortunately, then they lost some contracts. So my role became less. So I decided to move again and went to Crimson. City centre London, commuting into a corporate office, and was there for a short period of time, which is unusual for me because I normally do 5-6 years at least. Obviously, I did a long time with Millennium Copthorne. And then the commute was huge. It was a 2-hour each way journey, which was a thing, as well as the corporate office. I decided I wasn't happy in a corporate office. It just wasn't me. It was centralized revenue. You had to be on site every day, and it was just pressurized in a different way to what I was used to. I just didn't bloom like I normally do. So I started looking again, then had a short spell with RBH at Wootton House, which is a very big independent events-based hotel. Fortunately, I had some personal things happen in my life, so I decided to take a break. And then I've done some consulting work in between, finding the right role for me. And that's important. I think you need to find the right role. And hence I've had a few months out, done a project for some ex-colleagues from Westmont. And we have just rebranded from a independent into Marriott. So again, learned a new system. And I've just started at Cairn, and with the 5 hotels that I've got. So yeah, it's been very, very different, my career path, and I've tried to get every single box ticked in regards to independence, brands and experience that I could, different companies, different ways of working, finding myself, which was huge. That was huge in the 2000s, because I've been M&C for so long. You become almost, set in your ways. So it's nice to go to different places and find different ways of working, reaching out and learning things from not just your line managers and superiors and directors and owners, but also your peers, because everybody works differently, and learning different tricks, learning different, even commands on Excel, which sounds crazy at my age when I've been using Excel for donkey's years. But there's always things you can learn that, I didn't know how to do that formula.
It changes.
Yeah. So, it's all about, everybody's got a different skill set, and it's about channeling that. And I've learned the wisdom is probably one of my greatest assets.
Okay. Tell us about your experience of being an on-site revenue manager.
Okay, I love it. I love being on site. So despite you thinking Cairn is not, it actually is I do spend quite a lot of time with my team.
Yes.
I will go on site. I've already told them I will be on site regularly, and I
Yeah.
will. That's me. I know that's where my heart is. I'm not, even though it's remote, my contract is remote. I don't believe in that. One, it's lonely, so you have to obviously find it. But being on site is just different. You have the team around you. You can immerse yourself in it. It's just a different. I mean, when I walk into a property, I don't go straight to the GM's office. First place I go is breakfast, and I go and chat to the breakfast supervisors. They know their guest. They know their wants, needs, who they are, where they've come from. They give me a massive source of information, which helps me look at my segmentation properly, look at my pricing properly. Are we actually on the right strategy? The reception on my next ported call, again, for the same.
I was going to say.
Next for the same reason, and I get a bacon roll on the way, so that's always good when you. Yeah, I mean, I'm very much of the. You've got to use your team. They are your fountain of knowledge, and they know their product. They know their hotel. You can't learn what they know from an office based, 100 miles away, 200 miles away, and in some cases even thousands of miles away if you've got international properties as well. But I just think strategy is a lot easier when you're on site. It's a team. You have really good conversations with sales and marketing, your events team. You're on the ball. You can be involved in things that you probably wouldn't normally be involved in a corporate office. So you'd be involved in, for me, I don't just look at room revenue as in incoming. I look at the costs as well. And then that really helps me with my pricing, because at the end of the day, it's EBITDA that we're looking at. We're looking at profit for the owners and a return on investment and all the things. And if your hotel needs refurbing, if it needs certain things, it needs more staff, you can feed that back to the owners as well when you're having your monthly reviews. But also it's supporting the GM, getting to know them, getting to know how they think. And it's just two eyes, or as I say, it's a collaborativeness that you don't have in a corporate office. And you can't, I don't really know how to say it. It's just a different feel. And if you've got a personality, so if you're a people person, if you've come through the operation like I have, you get hotels, you get how they work, you know the right business, you know how to do a displacement and make the right decision on the piece of business that you go. Because sometimes you might get a juicy piece of business come through on an email and you might go, yeah. But really, is it going to work for that hotel? If you haven't been on site, if you don't know that, if the reception's tiny, how are you going to do a 60 bedroom arrival? If you haven't got decent food in the kitchen, how are you going to get a decent meal out of them? Little things like that you know your room types, you know everything. So you just know that property. And you can be a cluster and still be on site, because you can do several hotels in a week, like I did. I mean, with Castlebridge, I'd do two. They were a couple of miles apart. Same when I was at Copthorne, a couple of miles apart for each hotel. I'd spend equal time at the hotels, or sometimes I used to spend more time at one if it needed more attention. And you can just put your time where it's needed in certain places, but you can't neglect the other property as well. So you have to be conscious that you've got more than one property at times, which you can go down rabbit holes and just focus. The other one's dropped off. So there's pitfalls to it. However, you have to have a certain type of personality to do it, and you have to be you've got to be a team player to do on site. It's a different ball game than corporate office.
I think it certainly helps having some knowledge of operations. Like you said, you came through operations. I think that feeds into being a good revenue manager, knowing how the hotel ticks and the nuances and the kind of stuff that you can't quantify. Like you just get the hotel like almost instinctively if you've worked in a busy kind of ops department, which you obviously have. Would you agree with that?
Totally. as I said, it's when you're making business decisions, when you're doing that displacement, and you've got a tool in front of you, because every revenue manager will have a displacement tool. It will come up with a rate for you. It will come up with how many rooms you can offer. It will come up with, you know, whether it's going to work within the budget of the email that you've received for the inquiry or the RFP or however it's come through. But it won't tell you whether it fits with that building or not unless you know it.
Yes.
And that's the difference. You place the right business in the right hotel at the right time. It's well, you know, I mean, if you've got properties, because quite often management companies are based in one area and they have a lot of hotels in the same area. So you've got other tools that you can use, like overbooking, that you wouldn't use if you're in the office, because normally your hotels are spread out across the country and things. But yeah, I mean, it's very much the case of you can do several things. You can involve the local community as well. So you can bring money into the hotel via promotions and things, not just on bedrooms. You can think outside the box. You can bring F&B, you can bring spa, you can bring golf. Got a golf club, you know, memberships for the gyms. There's such a massive revenue bucket, as I call it, that you know you pull things out of if rooms aren't doing well, and you can only do that if you know the property.
If there's a debate between, does a hotel need an RM on site, or is a cluster model more effective? Does that depend on the property? You know, a total revenue management property, like with spa, golf, F&B, M&E, all the different facets, is that more suited to having an on-site RM versus just a rooms box where it is just, you know, 300 rooms with no variation in it in terms of facilities? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. For me, it's property dependent. So if you've got a large country estate, and I mean a large one, 150 bedroom plus, it's got to be with a golf or country club or spa or big food outlet or something that's going to drive revenue, whether it's attached to a sporting stadium, it needs an on-site revenue manager, I personally think, because there is peaks and troughs, obviously, with every kind of especially with country hotels, because they're out in the sticks, so they haven't got that steady flow of corporate business that a corporate box would have in the city centre. If you've got a branded hotel, don't really want to use a brand in particular, but you know the brands that have got, every hotel looks the same, every bedroom looks the same, every food outlet, the menus are the same, every single property. Haven't got meeting space, that's perfect for a corporate office, because you can use algorithms based on data that you received last year, that you've got coming in. You know the event calendar that you can input, so you know where your peaks and troughs are. You know when your demand's up, you know when it's down, you know how to price. Algorithms help you an amazing amount with that. But for that product that's completely different and has so many different facets and so many inlets, and you need somebody on site. So the cluster role for me is becoming more acceptable. You can have big properties that are different and be a cluster. I've done it with both. You know, I've done it where I've just been in one, but then I've had clusters that have had a multitude of different things attached to them, and I've managed to do it. It's all about your time management. It's all about spending that time. It also gives you a variation in your working week as well. So it keeps you interested and keeps you, you know, on the ball, and things are constantly changing. So it keeps your mind active. And when you're a revenue manager, it's very easy to become complacent, I suppose the word is, and you would just start using patterns. So when you're a cluster, stop using patterns, you start thinking outside the box, because something at another property will spark an interest, which will then make you think about the other property and go, okay, will that work there? You know, will that promotion there? How can we get around this? How can we do that? How can we get demand up? You know, there's so many different things that you have to think about. So the cluster role works as well, but you do need to, as I said, it needs to be an on-site cluster, in the fact that you visit the property and you visit it frequently, is where I'm from. But if you are in the market where you want to just be a bed factory, as I call them, where you're literally selling beds and breakfast, corporate's perfect for it.
We've talked a lot about the advantages of having an RM on site, and I totally agree with everything you've said. I've been one myself. Let's talk a bit about the disadvantages. I found when I was an on-site RM, I was pulled in a million different. So the office, I was in an open plan office behind reception. If the receptionist had gone to make a cup of coffee or whatever, then you were covering reception, or you were covering reservations, or when the bags came and the tour came, it's all hands on deck. Everyone get outside. We need to get the bags in the lift. Christmas parties, well, you were pretty much not doing any revenue management in December because you were serving. You were serving every day on Christmas lunches and then evenings sometimes. That's not conducive to quality revenue management. Discuss.
Totally agree with you. However, with age has come wisdom, and with wisdom has found secret hidey holes in hotels to disappear to for hours.
Brilliant. The porter store.
Yeah.
The fire exit stairwell.
Nobody
the gym.
goes to the accounts office. I don't know why. Everybody's scared of accounts, so that's a good place to hide. No, I totally agree. You do get pulled into things, and you have to be really careful, and you have to be very strong. So my wisdom has taught me that I can't be scared of saying no. I have to say, I've got deadlines, I've got to meet them, get the support of the GM or the ops manager, whoever's on site, the senior manager at the time. Hopefully you're normally on a par with the ops manager anyway, because of the seniority of the role. So you can normally hide. Obviously, if you want to do it, if I've got a spare 10 minutes and I want to help lay some tables up, then I'll do it. But usually I don't. So it's as I said, it's about the wisdom of being able to, and confidence. It's confidence as well, being able to say, I'm really sorry, I can't do that, but doing it in a nice way. You don't just, bite the head off. If you can see people really struggling, then obviously you're going to step in, aren't you? It all depends on your personality, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, in the last probably 10 years, I've learned to say no. Up until then, you're totally right. And you made me laugh because, yes, I have served Christmas lunch and dinner and had the bar open till 2 a.m. in the morning serving pints and all the rest.
Turned around for breakfast.
I turned it around for breakfast and then helped housekeeping, stripping beds in the morning because you've got it all over again tomorrow. Yes, done all that. Because we go through operationally staff challenges, getting team members at base level is really difficult these days, and it is. And I fully feel for any GM or ops manager trying to recruit since COVID, especially. But I also know when it's busy and stay away from hotels and I hide.
Shrewd move.
You need to be strong. You need to. I mean, when I go into a new GM now, especially probably in the last 2 or 3 roles that I've had, I've gone to the GM and said, look, there is certain times I need total concentration. I need silence. If I can't be on site, I will work from home, or I'll go to corporate head office. I'll go to somewhere. I will find somewhere. I've worked in conference rooms. I've gone up to the HQ in the Midlands for the day to work. I've gone to other hotels. Sometimes I go to other hotels to work as well. Our comp set. One, it's a comp set visit. You can have a good nosy what's going on. But 2, you can go and have a coffee and get your work done. And, so there's always places to hide, is what I say. But yes, that is one of the biggest downsides of on-site revenue management, is being involved in things you really don't need to be involved in. So yeah, I totally agree. That made me laugh.
100%. Yeah, it made you laugh because you identify with it, don't you? And you can see the kind of pitfall, but you've learnt ways to get around it as you've acquired experience, let's say. But what are the skills? Contrast the two. What are the skills needed to be an effective RM on property versus the skills needed to be an effective RM in a corporate office? Talk about the differences. What's important?
So what's important for on-site? So first of all, you've got to be a team player. You've got to think as a team. You've got to involve other people. You can't be a lone worker. You can't cut yourself off and just be yourself. You've got to think about other people. You've got to obviously have great time management, when you're on site. You have to be organised. You have to be at work on time, which is a massive thing. You know, when you if you're running 10 minutes late because of traffic or whatever, you can drop a Teams message to anybody and say, I'm sorry, I'm stuck in traffic. That's not a problem. But when you're on site, you're expected there at 8, 9 o'clock, whatever it is in the morning. You've also, your hours are different. So you've got to be more flexible with an on-site revenue management role, in the fact of there may be days you're late, there may be days that your sales and marketing meeting runs out, and then you've got to finish, update your rates and, you know, check everything's running, all your systems are, your inventory's balancing, all these things. So you might not get out at 5 o'clock, and also if you get dragged into serving lunch, you might have up that time afterwards. So it's very much that systems knowledge on site. You are expected to be the oracle of every system in the building. Whether you use it or not, you do become the oracle.
And I'm laughing because from bitter experience.
Yeah, it's very much that you are the go-to person for anything to do with accounting, money, booking people in, reservations, revenue, systems. So you're an IT expert, you're everything. That's what you become when you're on site. Whereas when you become corporate, you're very much data driven. So if you are a data analyst and that's what you love doing, just looking at data all day, analyzing it, making decisions, affecting making effective decisions for systems, and you love and 1 or 2 systems is all you use, and that's what you want to be. You want to be an expert in that, and looking at your hurdles and everything else, and changing things and altering up as much as you can. It's very, very clinical, whereas on site it's very warm and fluffy. On site it's clinical. So it all depends on your personality. But yeah, I mean, it's very collaborative on site. You've got to be a collaborator. You've got to be open. You've got to be for other people's opinions, because you get them on site. You get people's opinions. If they don't agree with you, they tell you. Whereas in your when you're in a corporate office, you have slightly a more distant relationship. So you make decisions and then you just let people know that you've made those decisions and you've made those changes. So you're either a people person on site, or you're a lone worker in corporate. You like to work alone, you like to make decisions, you like to just do things and get on with things. You've got to be self-motivating. You have to be disciplined in a corporate office because you have nobody really looking over your shoulder. Whereas on site, you've got your GM asking questions all the time. You've got people asking you for data all the time. You've got even, you know, your event coordinators asking you to do displacements at a moment's notice, or doing an RFP or a quote. You know, your day is very, very different. So there's no flow when you're on site. Whereas when you're in a corporate office, it's very much your time is managed very, very well. You know where you are. There's not as much chaos, as I call it. It's organised chaos in a hotel. And it's organised in corporate. So it depends how you work. If you like variety, on site every day, all day. Like people, on site all day. But if you are a very focused, very data-driven, clinical person, you've got to go corporate.
So that being said, best career path to get into both aspects of RM, on-site or cluster office. Would you say that for a career as an on-site RM, the natural progression will be from reception, reservations into revenue management, or I came from like sales into revenue management, versus maybe cluster office will be potentially like someone that's done analytics at university, potentially that goes into a revenue analyst position, and then a cluster revenue manager position. Would you agree with that, or any comments?
Yeah, if you come, I mean, I did a degree. I've got a degree, so I did institutional management. So it's part of that, as you know, it's modules in every department. and there was accounting. In those days, they didn't have revenue management as such, but we did do reservations and sales sales and marketing. So it was covered in there, and the accounting. So it was a mixture of both modules. But no, you don't have to have a degree to become a revenue manager. You don't. If you work your way through the departments, you know, start off as even a switchboard operator, go to front office, go through to reservations, or even go straight into reservations or a sales admin role. You know, you can be a school leaver and come into the hotel world and come into an admin role and then progress and learn and ask questions. But you've got to ask questions. You've got to understand why decisions are being made. So you have to have that personality to learn, to want to learn, to be open to what happens, and also ask questions. As I said, ask questions. If you don't agree with something, don't be scared to say why have you made that decision, and let people explain to you. Because if you've got a seasoned RM as your on site, they should encourage any young person to come up through the ranks. And you know, that's what we're all here for. We have to build the future, because us geniuses and amazing people won't be here for long. So but no, I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, if you want corporate, I mean, there are certain brands that are very, very analytical, and I would suggest a degree, not necessarily in hotels, but analytics in computer science, things like that, to go into understand it, economics even, to go into understanding patterns and trends and looking at systems in a different way to you would an on-site manager. But you're less likely to, you'd have to work for a brand for a certain amount of time. It's very brand orientated to come through that route. So you're less likely to independents, because independents just don't have the same systems that a branded company have.
And of course, the brands offer brilliant kind of trainee revenue management kind of schemes, don't they? Also, I had Lawson from Marriott on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she was telling us all about their voyage, which is not specifically RM, but they do have an RM aspect to it. Hilton obviously do, or used to do, the Edge. Accor also do a kind of a similar thing down at Hammersmith. So I think it's advantageous really to, and these schemes are not easy to get on. Certainly the Marriott one isn't, but it's advantageous, isn't it, to get some brand, it's just like brand experience under your belt before you kind of, you know, like diversify as such.
Yeah, definitely. So if you get brand experience, they teach you everything. Their management programs are amazing. I mean, as I said, M&C I worked for, and they were great with me. I mean, I had Heather Hart was there in my day. She was an amazing mentor. She taught me an awful. She probably doesn't remember me because it's way back when. But I almost like had come into the room at the same time. She where have I gone? Did I go then? Something happened, sorry. She was like a goddess that came into the room, wanted to suck every piece of information I could out of her. So it was very much that you need to, as I said, go to a brand, get what you can, stay there if you're happy, you know, move around the country. I did, you know, you don't have to purely stay in that one hotel. Spread your wings, go, you know, we've got an amazing country, go abroad if you want to, you know. The world's your oyster when you're young and you haven't got responsibilities, children and things that, you know, you have to consider when you're getting a bit older. But
age.
So I would definitely go brand to start with. Give you a really sound benchmark of everything. And if you don't like revenue, you might prefer events, because the new thing is now they're bringing a lot of event managers in doing revenue as well. They do their own revenue management, which is exciting for them. And you've got reservations, and you can do sales and marketing as well. You might like revenue, you might not like all the data or the analytics and things like that. So you might say, okay, you know what? I like the people, the team, the collaboration. I like the arty and, you know, the fluffy stuff, as I call it, where, you know, you might go down the social route. You know, there's so many routes from sales, revenue. There is masses, and and you will just progress if you're good and you're passionate about it. And that's what you have to have, that passion. You have to be a hotelier. You have to have the passion of service in your soul to be able to perform well in whatever you do, in whatever department. And hotels are so diverse now, and there's so many departments. You know, I found out that we've got IT cybersecurity this week, which was amazing. Amazing. It's like they existed, but obviously they exist in the big world. But I thought it was all outsourced. But no, hotel now bringing in IT cyber. You know, you might go down that route where you decide, okay, I've done revenue management. I like the systems. Why don't I go into IT and do, you know, all the software and installations and things like that?
Yeah, it's a lucrative career.
Yeah, a lot of my colleagues have gone to Oracle, for example. You know, they're installing Opera and POS and, you know, all the different things. So it's a really good route into hotels, but also other channels once you know yourself and know what you want. But I think to be a good revenue manager, you still have to be a good hotelier. You have to have your passion for hotel. Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant note to leave on, actually. And thank you so much for joining me, because I as I said, I wanted to explore this topic for a while, and I think you're pretty much the best person out there to kind of inspire. I think you exude it. You exude that love of hotel ops and being on site, and how that translates into like being a good revenue manager. And I think the one thing I've taken away is that going into a cluster office environment needn't be just sitting crunching the numbers. You're kind of going to attack it by being on site more than maybe can like dictate that you are, because you understand the benefits of soaking up that atmosphere, chatting to the breakfast staff, chatting to reception, and really driving things from a total revenue management aspect, and not just rooms. That's kind of what I've taken away. I presume if students want to get in touch with you and ask you any questions about your career or your plans or anything, LinkedIn's maybe the best place to do it.
Yep. You can link in with me. You can drop me an email. If they contact you, you can give them my emails. I'm perfectly open. If anybody needs any mentoring or help with any projects or, you know, dissertations, anything they need to help with, you know, I've done it myself many years ago, but I've still done it. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help any student. I mean, for myself, it's about the next generation, and we need to inspire, because, you know, my grandmother inspired me. She was a chef. She was one of the only cordon bleu trained chefs back in 70s, 80s. You know, she was, and that's where I think my hospitality heart comes from. And my son's followed me. My eldest son is the front of house manager. So
I remember you saying.
Yeah. So, you know, and as I said to him, are you sure you want to do hotels? And he just said, Mum, it's addictive. And it is. It's your family, it's your social, it's your life. And it's, sometimes the pay is not great, but it's getting better. And as you go up, it gets better and better and better. And, you know, we are now, I think, a credible, unfortunately, I wish we'd have been like Europe in the 80s and 90s, where it was a profession. I see it as a profession. I'm a professional and I'm very, very good at my job, but it is finding that right company for you to do longevity with. And once you both find that fit, there's nothing better. You know, I smile all the time.
Sage advice. It really is sage advice. And thank you so much for giving up your time. I know you've had a whirlwind week with Cairn. I know that you're ready to open that first glass or bottle of wine. So thank you so much for joining me. And we'll speak again soon, no doubt.
Fabulous. Thanks, Jason.
Brilliant. So we've got time for this week. Like and share the episode because it helps us attract brilliant, brilliant guests like Victoria Wright from Cairn Group. See you next week.